This story is improvised by Jesse T. William and Tucker Patterson. It contains themes of abuse and sometimes intense depictions of violence. The story does not seek to glorify violence.
We're going to open with Cesarine's feet hurt. He's been walking around shoeless for quite some time. I believe the entire time he's been on the boat. No shoes. Walks around this entire city, this little town. No shoes. Get shoes. Must break in shoes. I think by the time he gets back to the tavern, there are little blisters, little red, angry blisters beginning to form, and the calluses on they get pretty gnarly. They've probably always been bad. I think there is so much relief in returning to his room very quickly, might I add. I think that the thought of making eye contact with any of the individuals that he has spoken to in this tavern up to this point is very overwhelming. So he beelines it upstairs. I think that there is something so deeply comforting, or something that he didn't realize was comforting, about being amongst the city and the people in it, even if it's all these strangers and Cesarine isn't necessarily the most charismatic or comfortable within groups of people. But to be alone in a place he's never been in, outside of his home that he's never left, for the first time in his life, with no one that he needs to answer to. Nothing that he even particularly needs to do. There's no deep sense of urgency. There is money important for living. However, I don't think in the way that his father sort of imposed this very quiet sense of urgency just around existing. That sort of near constant, steady flow of quiet panic. I think that it should feel peaceful, but it's not. Yes, he had time on the boat. However, I think, again, that was something that was familiar. It is of home to him. This is something entirely on its own. It's not so foreign that it feels completely detached, but it is enough. And I think that night, sleep does not come easy. I think that Cesarine spends much of the evening pacing or looking out of a window if he has access, or laying in the bed just sort of staring at the ceiling, feeling like something to happen, or is about to happen, or could happen. Nothing big necessarily, just a feeling that something is missing. There's something that isn't there that should be there.
I think amongst all of these thoughts, they are not experienced in isolation and silence, but amongst the sounds of the city around you, between the scurrying of pests around the walls and on the roofs. I don't think that Cesarine I don't imagine him to have a one of the windowed rooms. For some reason, I kind of just imagine him in a bit of a box in this moment, but still hearing the sounds of the streets echoing or penetrating through the walls, as well as the sounds of people straight up fucking in this tavern. Which might keep Cesarine up. All of these signs of life and presence, and with this grimy flavor to it. What do you think Cesarine might dream about? I'll also remind you that as you laid down on your back and on your chest, there is that mark left over from being stabbed, not just the scar, but some kind of like symbol or lettering put upon you.
Sorry, I'm taking a moment to consider, to make a character choice here, right?
Make a character choice.
About what did Cesarine dream about when things were like quote unquote normal for him? What did he dream about?
Oftentimes he would have like fear-filled dreams of the fella in white.
Yeah, I remember. And so I was thinking about that. I think there's something to be said about having those dreams about our white knight, right? And dreaming again later about the white knight, but in a far different position. A dream in which he is taking that mantle up. Or maybe it isn't him, or whatever it is, he does not have the answers for. And I think that there's a part of him that's maybe a little bit of fearful of unpacking that dream a little too harshly. I think if he doesn't have dreams similar to that one, then I think he dreams about the water. I think he has a dream about, I'm sort of pulling from some like personal dreams here, but not about, being on a ship, or the beach, or, the storm from that night. I think he dreams about sort of the stillness of being down deep. It's not quite a lucid dream, but something does register when you open your eyes and you look around you, and there it's just sort of darkness and a soft glow, because your brain's going to come up with the things that you can see, even though technically there'd be no light down there, kind of at the bottom of the ocean with the sand and the nothingness and the more nothingness, and just sort of floating there in the darkness. And you look around and you register, I should not be here. Like, and you know it's a dream necessarily, but you know that you should not be there. And if you are there, something bad is probably going to happen. Nothing was happening. You're just sitting there in the stillness and the darkness, floating along in the, lukewarm water. And even though it's lukewarm, and it should be much colder than that, but it is. And you're floating along, and it registers, and it isn't until it registers with you that you shouldn't be here, that you actually drown, that you panic, and you take in that big fucking lungful of water, and you just begin to die. And you probably would have been fine if not for anything else. And I think he has dreams like that. Dreams that aren't immediately nightmares, but something starts to feel very wrong eventually, until it is just pure terror and nothing else. Like, even in his mind, there is no settling. Even in the false, the sort of like false peace, I guess, of being deprived of the stimulus he's used to. Even though there's a new stimulus of noise, of activity around him in the city around him, it is still a peace he is unfamiliar with. I don't think he sleeps very soundly. I think he's sort of waning in and out.
I think with the water as well, and let me know if this is right, but a lot of your experience with water is with Dertig, although not seen in these episodes. Part of the history of the two of you is like going out in the summers and crabbing together. Is that an element in this dream? Even if it's like he's not present, like Do you still feel that connection, or is it just this? Is it this overwhelming feeling?
Yes. I think that Cesarine, I kind of talked about this last time and like kind of hinted at it a little bit this time, but I know I talked about it last time. Cesarine still feels like he is not far enough. I think he wants to go further inland, and I think it is ultimately because I think that the water, I think that the sea holds a great many associations, all of which feel difficult. I think he's having a harder time even letting his mind wander to the thought of Der Teague than he is thinking about like his brother or his father, which I think says quite a bit about how he feels about the Der Teague thing, even if he's not consciously acknowledging the falling out of that relationship. There's definitely an association there.
I think you wake up to a kind of heavy-handed knock earlier than you would like to wake up, but not so early that you haven't had a good enough sleep. Just like at the very edge of reason, or being unreasonable, perhaps. It's a strange sensation as you come out of the dream. For a moment, you feel more than you did in the dream itself, like wet. As you kind of, I don't know if Cesarine is the type to jump up or the type to just kind of like have a sudden kind of jerk, but for a moment you feel like you are soaked, and then you are like near dry as you can be in a very hot, humid climate with not the best AC in the world. I
think that he is like a calm but like very quick ariser, especially to like a loud knock. I feel like he's so used to that, but like used to also like I have to get up because my father is knocking. So just like almost kind of creepy. I feel like the way he like just like sits fully up and like gets out of bed, and it's like, oh shit, I'm fucking sweaty.
I think also for the first couple of moments, you probably think that. You're just like not even thinking about it, just being like, okay, like I need to go open the door for my father, and then it like halfway through of you, it's like, oh wait, no, that we're not there.
That's not happening. So I guess with like that in mind, I think he's still quick about it. I think he can't help himself, but I do think he like kind of just like gives it a moment to like, I don't know, maybe like wipe some moisture from his face or like his forehead, or just, kind of look around, wipe his face, then approach the door, go to open the door. I think his first thought is like, they're gonna fucking kick me out or something. But he's like, well, that's what it is. So he's just over the door.
As you open the door, you see Cato already kind of leaning in his like very dark clothes at the edge of the door frame where he could lean while it was shut, almost kind of at an angle, as he kind of like he's looking into the hallway, and as the door opens, kind of takes a moment to even acknowledge you, before just kind of like looking at you. I don't think he says anything immediately, but there is a bit of an expectation of like, it's time to get going. Not like kicking you out, because you don't own this fucking place, but just like I have things for you to do.
I have expectations. Chop, crab boy. I think he's used to like the I have expectations vibe. So I don't even think he necessarily says anything. I just think he like steps back from the door, kind of like almost like an open invitation of like, if you want to enter, I guess you can. I don't know why I'm letting you enter. You gave me money.
You gave me money.
You gave me money, and you're kind of pretty.
I think, unfortunately, like, absolutely takes that invitation to step into your space.
Unfortunately,
there's like nothing to see, but it's like steps into the room and like looks around, and it's just this like thing of I am here now.
Yeah.
I think like he's entitled to your space.
It's like, thank you for giving me what I was already gonna do. And but I think Cesarine is just kind of like an invitation. He'll walk in, and Cesarine he's just going to pick up his bag with his single step. He just slip on his shoes, and I think like I don't know what's in this tavern, but if they have little basin, little water in it or something, he just splash his face, just like generally be a little less fucking disgusting, and this is kind of like that kind of movement, maybe like a couple of minutes before he's kind of ready to fucking dip.
Yeah, there is the individual rooms do not have like basins or restroom type areas, but there is a kind of like common like go here to do your business. Did various businesses. I think he leads you out before giving you a chance to like eat. I think he just like leads you straight out of the tavern.
It's fine.
Now,
I'm used to no meals.
Have we talked about the swing mechanic?
No.
Hey, in this system, there's a mechanic called swing, which is at any point when you fail a roll, or when you have a roll that you kind of know that it's like literally impossible for you to succeed, you can choose to swing. And it starts in your corner. You choose to swing, and that is a good faith interpretation of a success. So it's not like a monkey's paw where it's like, oh, you succeed in this way, but then actually it is the best possible reasonable outcome for the situation. And you have that to kind of, if the rolls you feel like at some point betray what you think this story should be, you have that. But then when you use that, it goes to me, and then I swing against you to then make a bad happen at some point, to make you fail something that otherwise that you would have succeeded, but is perhaps more appropriate to the story that you fail. As you walk outside of this tavern, there's many people walking through the street. It's not extremely crowded. It's not like the busiest part of town, as I think the way that we described it, or I described it earlier, consists of a very kind of like dynamic hilly terrain, and it feels this part of town almost like in the shadow of a significant portion of the rest of it. He leads you outside, and there is a closeness, like physical proximity. And I think as you kind of look down either end of the street, he's beginning to lead you left, but to your right, the Odral, standing like on a third-story balcony, but looking down at you in the opposite direction that Cato leads you. I think as he leads you outside, there's probably a hand kind of like gently guiding you along on your back. But you make notice of it. Describe to me how Cesarine reacts.
Well, I'd like to note for the record, if it weren't for all the lead up, the visualization of this fucking deer thing on a third-story balcony, it's fucking awesome.
I think.
How'd you get up there, motherfucker?
Yeah. Not to like unwrap the thing too quickly, but I think that is like one of the unintentional bits of the Odral. It's just like, well, here's the best place for you to see me.
So I'm gonna be there.
Yeah. It's like, hold on.
What are you doing there? I think his first reaction is almost like like a little bit of his stomach sinking. There is this inexplicable sense of not comfort, but like a pull to the Adrol, right?
I think
I think that there's. Oh, go ahead.
It's like an uplifting pull.
Yeah,
it's like something that calls you to like something better, but it's very hard. Like it is in it. So I am going to pull back to a piece of real world framing that I got from someone, which is it's the answer to the question how you know when you love someone, and it's that they make your life better. And I feel like there is a feeling that the Odral is calling you towards something better. It's calling you towards love. But Cesarine's obviously like very ignorant of that. It like doesn't have words for all of these feelings. And so it's hard to describe because it's also tied with a little bit of pain as well. But I think in this moment, like Cesarine, like being such a young person, has so many feelings that he like intuitively understands but could not describe. Like as Cato has his like hand on your back, is like beginning, is like pushing you along, is like taking control, is like entitled to your space. It's like that feels gross, but it's like you can't. Cesarine doesn't know to advocate for himself, or doesn't know that is it does feel gross. He's like, something's wrong with me, probably. So yeah, I think that like a concoction of feelings is present.
I think it feels normal.
Yeah.
For someone to feel entitled to him or his actions, and I think because it feels normal, he's far more inclined to sort of let it wisp him away. I think the thing about getting better, right? A lot of the time, but the process of getting better is that it's work. At the end of the day, it's work, and it's hard work. So doing the thing that is worse for us is usually the easy way out. And so he feels up like, again, that pull, that uplift when he looks at the Adrol. But it feels harder to him to pull away from the individual leading him, pushing him along, and easier to allow himself to fall into whatever this other individual who currently has him wants him to do. Also, there is fear, right? His life has changed so much in a very short period of time, and he is associating this thing with a good version of that, and there's fear there as well. But I think it's the type of anxiety that you get from theoretically, like making a leap towards something is safe, like logically, but like something could go wrong. It's not like a deep rooted, like dreadful fear, but just like that bit of anxiety that kind of that eats at you a little bit. I will say that I think that he has some expectation, though, of if I stop following it, if I try to ignore it, eventually it will leave. There is as he'll kind of like just let Cato lead him. And I think he lingers, I definitely think he seems distracted in that moment, but ultimately doesn't pull away or doesn't go anywhere else or just lets himself be led. He is still fully expecting for this thing to eventually leave him when he fails to follow its lead.
In the moment that you do, like in the moments rather, you take note. Hito's not ignorant. He'll notice your attention away from him and will look at what you're looking at and will not himself call attention to it, will not ask you about it, will not say anything. But the hand, like there's a moment where he stops for a second. And I think in that you feel almost like you were invited to stop yourself. And the moment you do, the hand goes from your back, which I think at this angle, like you're almost turned a bit towards each other. So the arm has to come more around you. And it goes from your back to like the back of your neck. And it's it's just forceful enough to not set up all of the alarm bells, right? It's not like painful, but it's like much more direct. And it like immediately it feels like you've done something wrong. And he'll just begin to like, there's a moment where you stop, and then even before he starts moving, he's pushing you forward with this like new kind of grip for like maybe a minute or so as you leave this creature behind. Or if you begin to leave, unless Cesarine does anything else or has any other feelings.
No, I think he just lets that happen. I do think maybe he's like a tad nervous about like what he doesn't really know what he's about to go do, and maybe that little bit of forcefulness has him maybe a little bit more nervous than he was about what things may occur coming up here. But he doesn't have a lot of other options, so here we go.
There is truly like such a darkness that Cesarine does not understand. There's such a rot that it's just like you don't have the words or even the like frames to be able to see it. You see that he leads you towards the edge of town by way of heading towards the shore. And I think as you move through the city, most people, I think, feel happier than you are used to seeing. I think that's one thing to illustrate or to point out here. I think most people feel happier than Cesarine is used to seeing. This place, I think, feels more comfortable in a lot of senses than home. And I think rather than taking that as a sign of this thing I'm experiencing is an outlier, Cesarine views it as this thing is a part of that. This thing is actually connecting me to that. You know, it's like making the excuse for it. The town or the city rather, is beautiful and calming. It has that ocean breeze and what feels like all of this support. You're watching as you go by, like the members of the safeguard, which you've barely seen in the first 17, almost 18 years of your life. Now taking action to like help people and feed people and heal people who are injured. And I think even to follow our little feet theme, like you see someone who has, you know, probably like traveling in from the north and just like has like ripped up feet, and you see that there's someone who's just like doing some magical ointment in the middle of the street on their feet to be like, hey, like it's all right, bud, like we'll take care of you. There's so much like, this place is like, I get it. I don't get this thing that's immediately here, but I'm gonna figure it out.
What a I'm on to you type of sentence.
And you see, as you approach the shore to the north, so the shore goes from north to south. To the north, there is a structure, well, far in the distance, but different enough as it kind of emerges from the tree line beyond the dunes. From the feeling of this city, it's different in its presentation, its architecture, its character. That I think it just catches your eye. I don't think in any meaningful way Cesarine's called to it, but it's like, oh, this is another thing that I don't know about. This is another part of the world, as there's so much. And Cato will lead you underneath the docks to a open sewer, which notably unlike our real world, for a number of logistical reasons, it does not smell, and I don't think there'd be any expectation that it would smell. This is a high magic world. There are all kinds of enchantments that like clean the water as it gets back out into the ocean. So as you walk in, by and large, you are walking into like a stream of largely clean water, and maybe just little bits of buildup and grime of like naturally occurring like mold or other things in the walls of the sewer itself. But I don't think that there is it's not like a particularly punishing and gross experience. And I think in the darkness, although there are occasional like arcane lights that dimly light the way, it's foreboding, certainly. There is a strange etherealness to a darkened tunnel with a stream, with occasional little motes of light that reflect on the surface of the flowing water. And even as the water flows on the bottom of the tunnel, running over these little arcane runes carved into the brick that light up themselves when a spell activates. Like if you step in the water itself, it might like activate and like clean some of the dirt off of your shoes. So there's a strange kind of beauty here, but a forebodance as well. What do you think Cesarine feels in this context as like Cato leads him into this dark place?
Cesarine's not from the nicest of places. They didn't have much. But he also wasn't in a position where like Cesarine's not living in a world in which like every other day on like the news or on social media or something, they're like this person died, this person was snatched up, this crazy true crime story. What basis does he have for what's going on?
Yeah, like that. I think kind of what I'm dancing around is that he doesn't really, because I think there is a feeling in our heads of like Cesarine. A bad thing could either happen to him here, of an assortment of bad things, but also there is a kind of like, if this wasn't a sewer and it didn't have the connotation, at least for people in the city, it would have a connotation of like, well, that's dirty. I think to Cesarine, it's like, oh, this is like kind of nice and like a little wondrous and like a part of the world that's like, ooh,
that's cool. I've never seen this before.
Yeah, which is maybe like even part of Cato's whole thing.
And also, you're like, you as a person are like, logically, you're like, Cesarine, stop going into strange secluded places with strange men.
Yeah,
what do you just stop
this
it?
Strange man is leading you into dark tunnels. Cesarine, stop it.
Why are you just letting this happen? It's me. I'm letting it happen. I'm his god. And so I don't think that he does. I think that, yes, there is some level of anxiety. I think when Cesarine is with a stranger, he feels some level of anxiety. therefore, this situation doesn't like he's not like, oh yeah, I'm so safe and comforted right now. There is a level of nervousness or like not being sure what's about to happen or what's going to occur. But I don't think he's of the opinion that he's about to get like serial murdered right now either. He is, I think, a little bit more distracted by this thing that is new to him, that he doesn't stop to consider all of the dangers. A little bit sort of enthralled by these things, but I think still quite centered given some of the actions of Cato. He is somebody who I think, like Cesarine, even subconsciously picks up on stuff like that very like quickly because of how his father was. So it's almost like in the back of his head, the underbrain has given a line of code, a directive of like focus a little bit. You know what I mean? So very interested in what's going on, but still very much like watching for anything from Cato.
I think as he leads you into these sewers, I don't think he said much this morning or this early afternoon, especially after the withdrawal. I think it's just not talking about it. And as you come into this different context, and there's this kind of like new wonder to see, I think he will begin to speak to you. And I think the first thing he looks for or asks, he says, so tell me about yourself.
I think Cesarine's a little taken off guard. I think this is not necessarily the area he thought they'd have a conversation like this in. But he will, let's say, there's not very much to tell. I'm from Boulogne. I just finished school. I spent my summers crabbing.
Friends? Family?
Not anymore.
I think he's beginning to slow down. And when you say that, I imagine Cesarine stops. I don't think he does it intentionally at all. But you feel that pull. And you're at this point coming to an intersection where Cato is kind of like naturally leading towards one of these directions. You're already past the point of seeing the light of day, but you feel the pull behind you. I don't think you're looking there yet, but I think you know what you would see if you did. What does Cesarine do?
I think his head turns, right? Kind of off to the side, off his shoulder. And his eyes do dart back, but I don't think he fully turns. I think partially because he feels like he's too far down this goddamn sewer. Like he's already made the decision once, he's got to keep going. But I think it makes him more anxious now about being in this place with Cato. Now, granted, Tucker's brain is like, the guy brings you into the secluded spot and goes, you got friends and family? You're dead. He's gonna axe murder you now. And he's gonna keep all your limbs in separate, but he's gonna store them. You know what I mean? He's gonna do something weird. Mm-hmm. But I don't even think Cesarine has gone that far to have like a thought like that yet. But he is a little bit more anxious now that like it's feeling very like frequent. Mm-hmm. And it's starting to make him feel, I think, consciously like something. I think if we've established anything about Cesarine is that he has a very fairly good gut. He's really bad at identifying things about what his gut is telling him and his hunches, but he just feels a little nervous, a little wrong about moving forward, a little bit more anxious about it than before, because Beatrice keeps, or that presence keeps coming to the forefront, or I guess behind him in this case.
The quick dart of the eyes, barely seeing it, but immediately knowing it's there. Kato is seeing you stop. I think we'll turn. Again, it's physically there in the world. I think he, at this point, like, has probably had his hand off of you for a bit because the directions are fairly obvious. So when you stop, he turns toward you. And as he begins to reach for you, I think for the first time, the Odral makes a proper sound. And it is the call that you would expect the animal to make. It's this kind of like, I mean, it's very much like a deer. That kind of like very hoarse kind of wail, but maybe a little bit lower in tone. But as it echoes out in these tunnels and off the water, I think there's like that kind of tone of light from the distant or diminutive little motes that are scattered across changes slightly, almost as in like a pulse. And the call is not just a short, it's like a long wail. It's like, I think it feels like it like pierces you like a thread that led by a needle just goes straight through your body. And there's a moment where it's like you are unsettled, because I think although there's so many feelings present, it has never asked anything of you. And I think the ask, the feeling of, or the implication of an ask is scary. And shortly after the call begins, Kato, I think, kind of grabs you by the upper forearm and then puts his other hand on your waist and kind of pulls you a little bit close. Not so close as if he's going to like immediately kiss you or something, but there is a vibe to it that is very intimate, and I think is like purposefully overwhelming. Like, this is a young kid who has no experiences, and whatever feelings you have about like sexuality and intimacy are being used against you, most certainly.
Oh no.
So I'll let you decide what the outcome of this is.
I think Cesarine is so fucking over. I think you've created like a perfect little storm for his brain, because it's like the draw and then it yells and then Kato is grabbing him and he doesn't know what the fuck is going on, and there's this like fucking energy around the draw yelling.
I think this is time for a roll.
I agree.
I think this is an intuit check, which I think is a thing Cesarine can do, which is just a D20 plus a D4.
It is a thing he can do.
I would say we're looking for like 16, 17. I'll know in the moment.
I know the 17 on the die. And a 4 on the die.
You don't know what Kato's end game is, right? Like, he said he's going to get you employed. You know, he's giving you a little bit of money, this, that. I think you mentioned you have your like bag with you or something. I think in this moment, you so clearly see, like Kato's not acknowledged Theodral, but he's clearly seen it. You've seen that he's seen it. This thing he's doing is in response to what it's doing, which means that he is specifically trying to pull you away from a thing that, even if he does not understand, knows is going to pull you away from him. He doesn't even know you. You spent like however many, like 15, 30 minutes walking together to get here through the city, and he didn't say a word. He met you last night, and there's all this like entitlement. I think in this moment, it's like that. I think Cesarine might more consciously know that he doesn't like that. I don't think you understand all of the extent. You don't have a framework. You don't have context. But you know that you don't know what Theodral is. You know that you have complicated feelings about it. And you don't like the way Cato responds the 2 times it's been around. Because I think also, I imagine you're thinking the same thing. Like, Cesarine is being held by this person. Like a hand is around your arm. It's not like you can just be like, I'm gonna go now. Like that's
Bye-bye.
maybe a fight or something, you know? Like that's a problem.
I think for a minute he's just like so still, like frozen, you know, like having a play dead moment almost. Very, very tense, like as if waiting for something else to occur. So, something about this feels so confrontational to him, I think, and it is, and I think at times where there was confrontation before, the exception being with the White Knight, he usually would just sort of clam up and just take whatever was going to come his way. And while the White Knight moment was maybe a little bit of catharsis, maybe outside of his usual realm of action, habits and trauma don't die that easy. So I think his first reaction is to just be very sort of still and almost kind of closes in on himself and just lets Cato hold him there. And he's listening very carefully. If nothing happens in that few moments of silence and stillness, he may say something or do something.
Theodral, after it's like bellow stops, I think that the tone of the light down the tunnel that it is in stays that kind of slightly silvery tone, and you hear it, although you're looking at Cato, you hear it like hooves splash in the water as it begins to take steps. It's not like fast or anything, it's just like a calm gait towards you, and you see Cato kind of like look over to it, almost stop himself from rolling his eyes, and then take a step back, gently trying to pull you in the direction that he wants you to go.
I think it is in this moment that Cesarine has like a register of like, what does he think is happening? However, I think he's like maybe too nervous to ask that. And sort of, I think that there's like an underlying of overwhelm and frustration, because it feels like he's being asked to do 2 different things right now. Well, in one situation, he doesn't really feel like he's being asked, like told, but you know, but he doesn't know what either of these things are. So he's like so sort of lost and out of it right now. I think that's almost clear on his face.
I think Cato will say, like, as he begins to pull and sees that kind of on your face, will say, like, have this like devilishly charming smile and just say, trust me, with the pull.
Cesarine will allow himself to be pulled.
As you take the step with Cato, you hear the kind of last step of the Odral. And just one last, like, quiet yelp. Like, not even a yelp, just like a barely a sound that it lets out. The noise, I think, is sad and defeated. It's like a last, like, almost given up. And there's this, like, small amount of guilt and heartbreak in it.
I think that that alone causes its own, like, because he had been hoping previously it might give up. That if he just kept denying it for long enough, it would go away. But now that he thinks it is going to give up, he's scared of what that means.
I think as these feelings are happening, like, the steps are continuing, which isn't to cut off Cesarine's route, but it's like there's the buildup.
I think that feeling that lingered after, jumping onto the boat, seeing the Adral jumping onto the boat, of the dream about his brother, about seeing the Adral after when he was, very upset with it, and all those emotions, right, about feeling like, I just, leave me alone, basically. This kind of confliction between the things that he's felt positively associated with it, the catharsis of jumping, of leaving, and also those negative emotions of in this thing's arrival into my life. Some things have changed drastically, and I don't know if I'm seeing anything good of it yet. But also something in him inherently telling him or giving him these positive associations or this feeling of uplifting. The idea that it might actually be good. Like, he was like, yeah, maybe I'll do it enough and it'll give up. The idea of it actually leaving feels like, I think it makes him a little fearful.
As the feeling of fear is there, as Cato is pulling you back, he's pulling you towards the wall of one of these intersections, and you see his foot passes as it goes back through this wall, as if the wall is not there at all. It's kind of like curved a bit. And now you are heading into not only what you don't know, but can't even see or anticipate. You don't know what is on the other side, but that is the, like, cutoff point.
I think the panic is probably, like, a little palpable, you know what I mean? In, like, his eyes, but I think kind of will, snap back down, even if he can't see the ball, but in that general direction. I think he'll kind of take the step, like he's gonna follow Cato, but he will turn his head fully to look at the. I think he's like almost like begging a little bit with his eyes of like, give me something. I think he wants anybody to give him something to grasp onto, and he's struggling because he doesn't have any anchors right now. Nothing feels like a solid anchor.
As you turn your head, Cato, the grip on your arm, like, tightens a lot. In a way, like, you're almost through this passageway or whatever it is, and suddenly it's like, this is, I don't think the, like, most violent grip that has happened on your arm, because I think your father is just, like, a lot stronger than this dude. I don't think this person is particularly strong, but just like a much more firm, like, as tight as he can grab. I'm going to roll a d20 for our withdrawal. Even though the grip is so tight on your arm, Cato's face remains with a smile, a charm. His face alludes to this idea that everything is going to be okay, but he won't let you make that choice for yourself. The withdrawal, like you've stepped so far away from it. And it sees this moment of you reaching out to it. Finally, you kind of having this need, this want. And immediately, the eyes get brighter, and the black leaves on its antlers turn silver and bright, and cast this bright light. And there is a sudden, breeze through these tunnels, and the water begins to shift with it. And even itself probably having this glimmer of silver. And I think you see through the frame of its antlers a figure that is, I think, hard to comprehend. It feels humanoid to you in some form. And its form is more silvery, and its form is now reaching out a hand. And I think it even there are elements where it feels like its shadow is cast behind Theodral. And you feel this rush of emotion. I don't think it's even one emotion. I think it's just a lot. I think it's just if someone walked up to Cesarine and flicked the switch that's let all your emotions out right now, I think is kind of the feeling. In this same moment, there is a tug by Cato. Does Cesarine resist?
I think he does.
Make a roll. I don't think you have...
I'm not particularly strong.
Not strong, not slippy in this moment.
And not very
do you
strong or
think
slippy.
your training with Clarion would have paid off at all as far as a skill?
Yes, I think it would have taught him some things for sure. I still don't think he is particularly strong or crazy with it. I think it probably aided him a little bit more in maybe some cards that were useful, maybe being a little fat quicker on his feet. But I don't think he's particularly physical.
We are going to then use an element of the warrior tree. The base dice, the basis of this skill tree are called stamina dice. And as you begin to gain stamina dice, they are at a D4. I think in this moment, so typically you have a pool of dice when you enter some kind of encounter. I don't think Cesarine is prepared enough. So I think this is just using stamina as a skill, which is just going to be a single D4. Cato is going to roll against you. He will be rolling much higher than you.
I have a feeling.
You have your swing, though, if you would like to use it. But roll first for the drama. I will roll as well.
So roll the 2.
2.
A little 2. I don't think I'm going to take the swing.
So Cesarine still tries to pull away. Cato rolled a 32.
Let's go.
So hold along like the child that you are. You are brought into a very different room. You see it has a number of people within. I think in this moment, I imagine Cesarine to still kind of be pulling away. I was just pulling and failing. And emotional and weird. And the vibe is looks very bad as you are pulled in this room. Do you think that is correct?
Yeah. Like, yeah, that's correct.
You see that there are, like, at a quick glance, maybe at least 4 people that you can see.
Great.
I don't think in this moment, like, any of the details are very clear. I imagine Cesarine's eyes are, like, kind of filled with tears, and now you're kind of being pulled along.
Yeah, I think he kind of like, and I think he's partially also not paying attention because I think that his eyes like keep shooting back to the wall that they just came through. I don't think he's fighting Cato. Like after that initial push, like now he doesn't know where the fuck he is. So it's kind of like,
yeah,
that's where he is. But I think his eyes like repeatedly move back to the wall.
Cato will kind of bring you through whatever structure this is. You hear words and questions, but I don't think like clock anything. You're just being led along at this point. I think he brings you to a room with a bed in it. As he brings you in, he will close the door and probably lock it. And I think he'll begin to like wipe the tears from your face and stand very close to you. And say, I was going to introduce you to everyone, but maybe you need a moment. And kind of both hands will go to your face like thumbs wiping the tears.
I think suddenly he's feeling super laid bare, very kind of open and vulnerable. Not that he wants to be. I don't think he's used to people seeing him feel things. We've seen Cesarine feel things.
He's in over here, though.
Yeah. You don't even know we're watching you.
You don't even know we have our eyes on you, fucking dork.
But other people, there's been in moments in which Cesarine has been kind of alone. Other people, though, not so much. And I think that's on purpose with the type of father he has. So, yeah, I think he feels very vulnerable right now. Especially with his emotions kind of running as high as they are, and then the implication of other people, and then remembering that other people were there, and other people looked at him and saw him, and now he feels sort of extra, like kind of cut open, and just like presented for people to see, and he doesn't even really remember what those guys look like. That's how he's feeling, and I think he'll ask a question. I think it's actually kind of like a little quiet and like uncertain. When he speaks, there is a very clear lack of like confidence or knowing what's going on, or even like real understanding of what just occurred. But he'll look up, I think, kind of like speaking a little bit through like a little bit of a hoarse, sort of voice, and ask, he'll say, like, why did you do that?
Again, his hands are like on your face. There's like a lot of closeness and intimacy that is like being used against you. And you see very quickly he will say, the spirits often want things for us that are not in our best intentions. If something has its eyes on you, best just to ignore it. Not give in. Can you do
say that in a way that indicates he has like previous experience with this? Do I get a vibe?
Make an intuit check. Make your little D20 and a D4.
Oh yeah, I'm not as bad at that. Fuck! The dice know that Cesarine is a silly little crying baby right now, and they deemed I will only roll a 5 combined.
He acts like he knew what it was, or at least understood to some extent. Like he understands something about it. But yeah, you see, after the sentence, he's like trying to hold your gaze, and he asks, like in saying it's like best to ignore it. Can you do that?
He'll tell him. I think in a moment of like maybe a little honesty, a little bit. Where he's like kind of saying a lot here, because I do think that he takes immense amounts of comfort in the idea that another person he can communicate with, in common, who speaks a language, has at least some idea of what is happening here and is actively telling him something about it. That's kind of comforting, because he's been like, what the fuck? Up until this point, and hasn't really received any like answers. And this isn't necessarily answers, but like there is a level of understanding kind of seems to have that is comforting to Cesarine. And he will say, I've been trying to for days. I'll keep trying. I've never seen it do that before.
I won't let it hurt you. And he will, as he's like looking into your eyes, he will kiss you.
For a split second, there's nothing. And it returns. And it's almost like this, it like is gone. And then there's this like sudden like rev up again. And I think he completely falls into something like that. And just gets whisked. It's like his emotions plus the action just completely take him somewhere so far away.
There are, unfortunately, being a young person of little experience in this realm, a lot of feelings that you're not used to feeling in this intensity. Continues to kiss you and push you towards the bed.
I think the only thing that I could say about Cesarine's mindset is that he is currently caught in his own little hurricane in this very exact moment. And at least for him, in his mind, he does not feel like he has the ability. He doesn't even feel like he consciously has the ability to recognize that he doesn't have the ability to to stop any of this sort of thing, or to consider what's going on. It is just moving with whatever way these very aggressive tides take him.
This has been Cesarine's Saga, with Tucker Patterson as Cesarine and Jesse T. William as the guide. This story uses the Legacy and Saga TTRPG designed by Jesse T. William. It is edited and scored also by Jesse T. William.